Hey guys, welcome to the Paint with Lovejoy website. This is the place for first-time and beginners to get comfortable with the painting process. If you have never painted, I am definitely the teacher for you. I will give you permission to play, to create with your hands, and I do consider this adult kindergarten, where you get to make memories with yourself or with loved ones. And you will notice that creative time is something that you will reference for the rest of your life. I do encourage you to send me photos of your paintings. And when you're done with my YouTube videos, please check out my Paint Your Pet course for even more in-depth and kind of my signature class. It's a lot of fun. Before we get started, I want to say thank you for being you. And I also want to give you permission to play today. I'm going to encourage that you take a lot of progress photos, and I do recommend that you turn off your distractions. Put your phone on mute. Please know that mistakes will happen. We call them happy accidents. And I'm going to encourage you to breathe throughout the painting process. Here are your recommended supplies and the colors for this particular video. This video also has a traceable, a line drawing at the beginning, and you can either purchase the traceable and transfer, or you can pause the video and draw it freehand, whichever you feel comfortable doing. Again, progress photos are important. And I'm going to encourage that you pause and play the video as much as you need and rewatch anything that you want. Now let's go ahead and get started. All right, guys, so take your first progress photo. We're going to start in the background, and we're going to be doing a light blue. I'm utilizing a paint tray from a prior painting. But if you want to switch to the purple, please feel free to do that. So I'm starting with the medium or large flat brush, starting with white and introducing the blue. Now, if you have to make your color a second or third time, don't stress about it being the exact same shade. So it is okay if you have to mix your background color a couple of times. And when you have the variety in your background, it actually just makes your painting more intriguing. If you're one of my beginner painters and you can see the texture of your canvas, I recommend that you apply your paint a little bit thicker. It's going to fill in that texture of the canvas, and it's going to make some of your blending easier. And a few moments earlier, you could see where I was even grabbing just the direct white and mixing it with what was on the canvas already. If you feel like you want to lighten it up and grab that direct white or blue, please feel free to do that and add your white paint. You'll go through a lot of white paint compared to the other colors. So reload as needed. All right, you're doing a great job with this particular painting today. We are going to be focusing on brush control and blending and color mixing. And like the prompt just showed, please remember to make sure that you're breathing. When we're doing something for the first time, sometimes we tend to hold our breath, and many of my students have told me how they enjoy that I remind you to breathe while you're painting. With that being said, please feel free to kind of paint a little messy. Um, we live in a society where perfection and clean and everything's supposed to be perfect is kind of par for the course. So when you come to the painting class, you do have permission, paint a little bit sloppy, paint messy. This is your safe space um, to just kind of be that slightly extra out of control, however you want to word it. As you're getting into these tight spaces, please feel free if you want to switch to the smaller flat brush or even the pointy brush to kind of get into those nooks and crannies around this bird of paradise. Now again, if you need to, you can rotate the canvas, turn it sideways, upside down, whatever makes it easier as you're getting into these spaces. You're doing great, and if you happen to overlap the traceable, that's okay. Our other colors later on for the flower um, will be bold enough and will overpower the background, so you can paint right on top of it. I apologize for not locking my autofocus, and that does happen throughout the video today. It didn't warrant it enough for me to repaint this and refilm it. But again, I apologize for not locking the autofocus. So hopefully you can just concentrate on the painting. Now, as we go through the process today, please feel free to kind of watch the video and then go back and follow along and paint. I've had a lot of students that have given me tips that way, that they watch the video through one time, and then when they go to paint, they watch it a second time, and they said that helps their process. So just trying to pass on some tips and tricks from some of my other students. And like I said, in today's painting, we are going to be focusing on brush control and even some color mixing. And again, you do not have to get your colors perfect to match what I have on the screen. Just come close, or again, full permission to change out the colors and make it your favorite colors. You're doing great. And it's a nice place to kind of warm up and start with the background. There will be a point where I kind of get the base colors in, and then I slap some of the white and the blue on there just to kind of give a little bit more variation. And something to note for today's painting, there are two different shades of blue that I'm using. The current blue, this is a bit more of a cerulean blue, more of a light blue. And then for some of the details in the plants, we will use an ultramarine blue, which is a lot darker, deeper, almost close to navy color. So if you do not have the ultramarine blue, or you only have the ultramarine blue, you can use that for your background as well, or even a different color. And when we get to that part, if you don't have the ultramarine, I will actually give you a recommendation for making your dark blue. So don't worry. So here you can see I'm taking that blue, slapped it on a few places on the background, going to do the same thing with the white, and then you just go back and kind of move your brush on top of it. And this is literally the same thing that you do on the plate to mix your colors. We're just doing it directly on the canvas instead. And this is called wet on wet blending. So play with your background, get it to where you like, and we're going to let your background dry. And I'm going to talk about one of my other classes, and then we'll come back and start painting the flowers. So again, step away, let your background dry about 10 or 15 minutes. You can go get something to eat or relax. Check out my little Paint Your Pet ad here, and then we'll get back into painting. So my favorite class that I teach is Paint Your Pet. I will not make you paint as fast as the video right now on the screen, but I've been teaching this for about 15 years, and it is so satisfying and so rewarding. And all of my students are first-time and beginner students. Look at how proud these pets are, and what a great job my students did to get to the likeness of their pet. So I have a great formula for you. And it's fun to actually learn more when you paint something that you love. And again, if you've never painted, I'm a great teacher to start with, and I'll get you prepped and ready for the other classes. So I do teach this in person in 2 locations as well as online. Try to have something for everybody. And my steps are very easy and logical, and they will give you a lot of success. Now, when you're done painting your pets, you can also move on to paint your favorite animal, and the only animal you cannot paint is a human. But you will impress yourself and your pet, so check out the Paint Your Pet course when you're done, and let's go ahead and get back into painting. So check out your painting from across the room. Notice how you feel, just take a look at it, and we're going to jump in and work on our blending and our brush control. So here I am using the medium flat brush. You can also use the pointy brush if you want. And we're going to kind of put some base colors on here, and then we're going to do some blending. So right now we're starting with our light direct yellow. Pause the video as much as you need as I go through this. And if you need to pause the video, take a screenshot, and you can zoom in closer if you want to see some details that's a little bit harder to see elsewhere. So now I'm taking the yellow, adding a little bit of orange, going for a yellow orange, and then we're going to go back to the section, and on the left-hand side of this particular section, we're putting this yellow orange. And we have the yellow on the opposite side. And I want you to use kind of light pressure, blend the two. And if you need to, like I'm doing here, I'm actually moving to the pointy brush, and I grabbed the excess paint off the brush, off the bigger brush with the smaller brush. And now I'm grabbing the direct orange, super light pressure, And on that left-hand side in the corner, I'm placing that. Then you can wipe off the excess pigment on your brush if you need to, and then go back and kind of blend. And again, soft pressure. This is something that gets better with more practice. Take your progress photo, and then we're going to recreate that exact same step a few more times. And by recreating these steps a couple of times, you're going to get more comfortable with it and it'll become a little bit more natural. So we've got the yellow on there. Now we're taking the yellow orange and kind of on the top left-hand side, we're adding our shadow and then grabbing that direct orange and at that furthest left-hand side, adding a little bit of orange. So what we're doing here is we're doing our light value, which is the yellow, our medium value, which is the yellow-orange, and then our dark value, which is the orange. And this is how we create that 3D illusion by having 3 shades, a dark, a medium, and a light. And we're going to recreate this on every section of the flower today. So again, we just laid the yellow. Now we're using the yellow and white mixture. And this is going to be on the bottom, kind of the right-hand side. And you always want your darker element, your midtone and your shadow on the opposite side that the light source is coming from. That's part of what creates that illusion. So here using that orange on that bottom right-hand side, clean that brush if you need to, and you can go back and smooth out where those colors are. And you do want to make sure that you dry off all the water from your brush. You don't want to drop a water droplet on here after you clean your brush. All right, doing good. Now we're going to move up to the yellow orange, and then we'll kind of work darker from here. So if you need to, you can keep using the pointy brush or move up to the medium flat brush. And again, we're starting with the yellow orange as our light color, and then we're going to go red, orange, red. So we're still doing our light, medium, and dark. Remember to breathe and remember to take this at your pace. You can pause the video as many times as you want. You can go back and play or replay the video, but take your time. So now we're doing a mixture of red and orange. This is our mid-tone color. And we are placing this on the left-hand side of this element. There we go. And then wipe off that excess paint. And then again, a little more obvious here to see it where those two, the darker red orange and the yellow orange meet, softening that. And then now I grabbed that direct red and placing that on the far right-hand side, and then with light pressure, slowly blending that into it. So again, you can see a light, medium, and dark just in this element. All right, I'm gonna repeat it. So going back to the yellow orange, and if you have to, like I'm doing here, if you have to mix this color 2 or 3 times, it's just to your benefit each time that you mix this color. Your brain takes in that information and it makes it easier the next time that you go to make that color. All right, so doing great. Getting that yellow orange in there, and then we'll move to our red orange and then red. Now this is something that you could paint multiple times, and each time that you paint it, you're going to notice that you're more comfortable with the blending, you're more comfortable with your color mixing, and sometimes that's the nice thing about painting something multiple times. So here again, I'm moving into the orange plus red, getting a little bit of that base, and then again on the bottom right-hand side of this element, and then softly putting it in there. And then cleaning that brush, still using the pointy brush, and that direct red paint on the bottom and right-hand side. There we go. And then again, clean that brush. A little bit of the darker pigment goes a long way. No dripping water. And then with that light pressure, just soften that pure red into that lighter color. Again, a good spot to take a progress photo. And going back to the yellow-orange mixture, we're going to repeat that process one more time. All right, doing great. Filling in that yellow or that yellow orange area. Now we're moving into the red orange, and this is going to be on the bottom left-hand side. And again, we're imagining that our light source is coming from directly above. All right, and now grabbing that red. Again, this is going to be on the bottom and kind of the right-hand side of this part of the flower. Get that line on there, wipe off the brush, even clean the brush, and then go back with a damp brush, soften that line where the two colors. Another good spot to take your progress photo. And we're going to do this one more time. All right, so grabbing that yellow orange, we've got one more element for this color. Nope, two more actually. Again, starting with the yellow orange, putting the base on there. And this is again, that is on the left-hand side of this element, the darker shadows on the right-hand side. You're doing great. I'm really proud of you for taking time out of your day, getting creative, escaping the busyness of your life and the world. And again, just taking your time and enjoying your space. So now moving on to the red orange on that right-hand side of that element. Hopefully by now, after doing this 4 times, you're finding more comfort with your pressure. If you need to, you can rest your forearm against the edge of the table. And like I said earlier, you can turn the canvas sideways or upside down. You adjust for what you need for your comfort. So now grabbing that red, kind of putting that on the bottom, and again, more on the right-hand side of this element, placing it on there, cleaning the brush, and then going back and softening the transition. We've got one more element to do, and it's just going to be that bottom where all these parts of the flower came out from, kind of that top corner or the top portion of this. The bottom will be green. So we're taking that orange or even your red orange, your call, and just filling in that top. We'll put a little bit of red, and then that should be it for our shades of yellow and orange. And already looking really nice. Again, remember this is something that gets more comfortable with more and more practice. If you happen to be doing this video and you are pretty comfortable with the process and you want to challenge yourself, paint with your non-dominant hand. That is your challenge. So here I'm taking the red, kind of on the bottom base stem and the bottom of the stripe area, closest we can call it, put a little bit of red. Take your progress photo, and then we'll be moving into another color. Guys are doing great. Remember, take a deep breath, relax, shake out your hands a little bit if you need to, anything you need. So we're going to take that blue. We are using the lighter blue with a little bit of white, making it a little bit lighter but darker than our background. And we're going to use this as the highlight color for each of these elements. We've got 3 of them that we're going to create. And this is the part where we're putting this blue as the highlight color, but then we will be switching to the ultramarine blue, the darker, more navy looking blue for the mid-tone and the shadows. So again, with this color, pause the video when you need to and just notice where I'm placing this and the shape that it makes with my placement. And all you're going to do is just mimic that to the best of your ability at home. I did have a student do this one with purple paint instead of blue, and that looked really nice. That's always an option too. Right, doing great. Clean that brush. I did throw the ultramarine, the darker blue. There we go. It's actually a really pretty blue. And I'm using that direct. I'm gonna blend it in with the lighter blue I was just using. My paint is still wet. So again, this is the darker shadow element, and it's going on the opposite side that we put the highlight. The highlight was the lighter blue. So again, you can kind of lay that base on there, clean the brush, and then kind of soften it, but go slow. Do not take this fast at all. You're going to notice very quickly that this darker blue will overpower the lighter blue very, very quickly. If that happens and it becomes overpowered and you lose your lighter blue entirely, just let the paint dry and then reapply the light blue on top of the dry paint. All right, we're going to recreate this on the other two. So same thing, using the ultramarine, um, putting it on the bottom and then just softening the line and transition between the two shades. All right, two more, same process. And here, a few times, you'll actually notice where I put my pinky out on the canvas and I use that as my steady pivot point. Many of the other times I am resting my forearm against the edge of the table, but it's out of the video frame, so you can't see that. So again, just kind of find what's comfortable for you. Try holding the brush in different ways. You never know if you like something until you at least give it a try. Again, breathe, relax. These are tiny, tight, constricted lines and blending that we're doing. So again, not a race. You're here to just see your own skills, get lost in the process, and when you're done painting, your problems and issues in life and everything will still be there. So for this time frame, just forget about it. So here I'm going back to that light blue, just reapplying. You can do the same if you want, or you can wait until your paint is dry, and then that blue, that lighter blue will be less likely to blend in with the darker blue. All right, getting that last element in here. Then we'll be moving into some shades of green and yellow. Again, remember to exhale as you touch the brush to the canvas. Treat your brush kind of like a pencil and use just the last couple millimeters of the bristles for blending, and that helps you get into tighter spaces. And also keep in mind that if you find this frustrating today, keep painting, keep practicing, and then maybe do this painting in 6 months or a year, and maybe it's a little bit easier. And you can go, oh, yeah, much better. So take your progress photo, clean your brushes really good. We're going to move into shades of green, and I will be moving back up to that medium flat brush, but if you want to stick with your pointy brush, feel free to do that. So I've got the direct green. I like that kind of bold, darker green that I have. If you happen to be using a lighter green, you can add a little bit of black or even a little bit of purple to your green to go darker. So filling in that whole pod area with green paint. We'll do the same thing for the stem on the bottom. And while the green is wet, we will add a little bit of the darker blue, the ultramarine blue, as a shadow. But this is pretty dark to begin with, so if you don't want to do it when we get to that step, do not have to. Getting that last bottom area in there. This is taking shape very nicely. You should be very proud of yourself. And a few things to note as you get more and more comfortable painting. Um, just kind of start noticing different little things about my video, that maybe how often I grab paint, how thick I am using the paint to apply, and just keep adding to your comfort and your skills. So here you can see I'm grabbing that ultramarine blue. We are placing it on top of the green paint, kind of on that right-hand side. It's not a huge drastic difference. So again, if you wanted to skip this step, that would be okay. But I just like making at least kind of two shades on there to help give more of that depth. But you have done a great job. This is taking shape nicely. We've got all the canvas space filled in. I do recommend taking a progress photo. And this next step is again optional. I'm going to be outlining, basically redoing all those traceable lines from the beginning. And because I teach first time and beginner painters, by doing this outline, it kind of helps clean up your edges and helps give a little bit more structure, especially for my first timers and early beginner painters. If you have gotten comfortable enough with the process and you don't want to do the outline, or you don't need to because you were able to keep um, your colors kind of smooth and right up to that traceable line, then you can skip this step. And for those of you that are my beginners and you are doing the outline, kind of keep that in mind, that as you do more and more of my paintings, try to keep controlling your brush strokes, keep controlling the amount of messiness or impressionistic styles that you have with the painting, and then you don't have to do the black outlines. So just, I like to give way more options than I probably need. So you can choose to do some, you can choose to do none, you can choose to do all of them. I leave that in your hands. So as far as doing the outlines, like I said, I'm using the pointy brush. Notice how often I keep going back and grabbing the black paint. And my recommendation for using the pointy brush is treat your brush like a pencil. You almost want to hold that brush perpendicular to the canvas, almost at like a 90-degree angle, and use just the last 2 millimeters of the bristles. And that's going to help keep you at kind of an even consistency. And I also want you to play with that pressure. Again, using just the last couple millimeters of the brush, you can create a smaller line. But if you start having more pressure, then your line's going to get wider and wider. Both are perfectly acceptable, skinny and wide lines. It's just a matter of where you're at and your comfort and even muscle memory for your hands while you're holding the paintbrush. And with that part being said, your muscle memory, the more that you practice, the more that you do something, the more common and comfortable it becomes. And that's why I encourage all my students to paint on a regular basis. Not to get perfect, but just to get more comfortable with the process so you enjoy it even more. All right, so again, I'm keeping the painting in the same orientation just because of filming, but if you want to turn this sideways or upside down or at an angle, whatever it's going to take to make it easier for you to make these lines. I do recommend possibly resting your forearm against the edge of the table, or like I had my pinky out, using that as a steady pivot point um, earlier in the video. Try a bunch of different things. Again, this is just you developing your comfort level with the tools at hand. If you're finding that you're shaky, exhale as you touch the brush to the canvas. With that, take your time. Again, this is not a race. This is no rush at all. If you have to break this up into a couple sessions, that's okay. Please just don't give up on the painting. If you do break it up into a couple sessions, force yourself to finish the painting, because then if you go through the process and finish at least one painting, you're more likely to paint again. But if you just maybe do an hour and then leave it, you're less likely to continue the painting if you don't complete it. And again, notice how you feel. You may be so focused on your painting today, or for the time frame that you're doing it, that hopefully the rest of the world ceases to exist just for a little bit. And that is one of the best aspects and benefits of creativity, and something I try to stress in all my classes as much as possible. I do like that at all my classes, by the end of the class, definitely not at the beginning, but by the end of the class, everybody's relaxed. A lot of people are tired. Many people are hungry. But you're more relaxed than when you usually started painting. So again, that is the point of creativity, especially in this crazy, crazy world. You're doing great. And I can attest to the fact that there are some days that these outlines are super easy for me. And then there's some days that they're not. The days that they're usually not, those are days that I usually have a little more anxiety. Um, Maybe I'm hyped up on something, or if I'm angry about something, it's harder for me to control my brush strokes. So if you are having issues, maybe just kind of take a look at where your emotions might be today. And maybe you need to wait and do the outlines on another day, or just acknowledge where you're feeling right now, and that's a part of the painting. Hopefully with painting, you do notice that you're a bit more in the moment and you start noticing how you feel about things a little bit more. That's a big part of creativity. How does it feel to you? Doesn't matter how it feels to somebody else. How does it feel to you? How are you interpreting this art? How are you interpreting a situation? All right, a little bit of brush maintenance that I forgot to mention earlier. If you are noticing that your lines are getting wider and wider and wider, take a look at your brush. Sometimes we get a lot of paint buildup on there. So when that happens, you need to wipe off that excess paint, sometimes fully clean that brush. That's going to bring those bristles back together. Grab your paint again and resume making your lines. A lot of times in the creative process, we do need to adjust on the go, adjust during the process. So again, take a look at your brush, maybe take a look at your colors. Do you need to do anything before you continue on? All right, this looks good. So we got final step. We're gonna put some white highlights on it. These, I do want you to just kind of trust your instinct and just notice the general place where I put these. A lot of these highlights are just scrappy little crazy lines, and they are going on the side where we have the lightest color that we put. So this is going on that light yellow orange, going on that light blue area. When we put the white highlights on there, that's an indication of where the light source, the sun, is coming from. And it is kind of cool how much this white highlights kind of makes it pops and pop and give that 3D effect. I'm still human. I'm going to stumble over my words. I will not edit that out. You guys can laugh at me. All right, so adding a few more white highlights on the stem. Again, trust your instincts if you want to add more. But that does bring us to the conclusion of today's painting. So again, thank you for just hanging out with me for a little bit. Thanks for getting creative. I hope you enjoyed the process. Please don't wait too long to do your next painting. I recommend once a month, if not weekly, if you're able to do it. Send me photos of what you paint. You can email me or tag me, and then check out the Paint Your Pet course when you are ready for your next step. So thanks again, and until next time, cheers.